Imagine this. She's texting you good night while another man is lying right next to her. Brutal? Yes. But in today's dating scene, it's more common than you think. The competition is invisible, but it's real, and it's happening whether you want to believe it or not. Most men ignore the early signs and end up blindsided, wondering how they missed the truth staring them in the face. Don't let that be you. In this video, I'm going to expose 5 signs she's seeing other people, and once you recognize them, you'll never have to question where you stand again. Here's what most men never realize. Women rarely reject directly. Instead, they sideline, they delay, they distract, they keep you guessing. It feels confusing, but it's not. It's intentional, and it's how they keep options open. The problem is, men want to believe the words instead of seeing the actions. That blindness is costly. But if you know how to read the patterns, everything becomes obvious, and you'll never waste time again. If you're ready to see what others ignore, hit like and subscribe right now. And I'm curious, what's the subtlest red flag you've ever picked up on? Share it in the comments. It might just save another man from falling into the same trap. Stay with me, because up next, I'll reveal the hidden dynamic in modern dating that explains why so many men feel like they're always competing and still feel one step behind. We live in an era where dating feels more like a marketplace than a connection. Swipe left, swipe right, an endless scroll of faces, each promising something better, shinier, more exciting. For women, this flood of attention can feel flattering. For men, it often feels like stepping into a crowded arena, competing against dozens of unseen rivals. You're not just talking to her, you're unknowingly up against every other man who slid into her messages that day. And that's where the tension begins. You start off strong, sending texts, making plans, investing energy. But slowly, a question creeps in. Am I the only one, or just one of many? That quiet uncertainty eats at you when she takes hours to respond, when she says she's busy, but her social media shows otherwise, when you feel like your effort is being weighed against a dozen other men. Imagine this. You're texting her consistently, doing everything right, yet it feels like waiting in line for a table that never opens up. You see other men being seated while you're stuck in limbo, wondering if your turn will ever come. That's the modern dating game, filled with false starts, endless distractions, and women who may not even realize they're spreading their attention too thin. The truth is, if you don't learn how to see the reality behind her actions, you'll end up wasting time, confidence, and emotional energy on someone who was never truly invested in you. So how do you cut through the noise and see the truth? Let's start with the first sign. Number 1. She avoids seeing you. This is one of the clearest signals a man can't afford to ignore. When a woman is genuinely interested, she'll carve out time for you, even in the middle of a packed schedule. When she wants to be with you, there are no excuses, no endless maybe next week messages. She'll find a way. But when she doesn't show up, when plans are postponed, rescheduled, or conveniently cancelled over and over again, that's not busyness, it's avoidance. And avoidance is often a cover for divided attention. She's keeping her schedule open for someone else. Think about it. A man who matters to her isn't put on hold. He isn't left waiting for that elusive day when her calendar magically clears up. If she keeps telling you she's too busy to meet, but she still manages to go out with friends or post about her weekend adventures online, you're not dealing with bad timing. You're dealing with misplaced priorities, and you are not one of them. Picture this. You suggest grabbing dinner. She agrees in theory but never confirms. The night comes, she vanishes with a last-minute excuse. You try again the next week. Same story. After a while, you realize you're chasing shadows. She's not rejecting you outright, but she's not committing either. That limbo is where countless men lose weeks, even months of their lives waiting for a woman who's already moved on emotionally. Here's the hard truth. If she really wanted to see you, nothing would stop her. She'd skip a night out, rearrange her schedule, or even sacrifice sleep just to spend time with you. That's what attraction does. It pulls people together. If you don't feel that pull from her, it's because she's being pulled elsewhere. This isn't about demanding all of her time. It's about recognizing whether she values any of it enough to give it to you. When she doesn't, you're left holding on to excuses instead of experiences. And that's the moment to ask yourself, if she's not showing up for me, who is she showing up for? But let's say you do manage to see her every now and then. The next question becomes just as important. Is your connection actually moving forward, or are you stuck in the same place? Number 2, there's no progress. Relationships, even in their earliest stages, are meant to move forward. The rhythm may vary. Some connections move quickly, others more slowly, but there's always a sense of growth. More conversations, deeper intimacy, introductions to her world. When that growth is missing, when everything feels stalled in place, it's a sign you may not be the only one she's seeing. Think about the pattern. You talk, you text, maybe you've gone on a couple of dates. But weeks pass and nothing changes. You're not meeting her friends. You're not invited into her life. There's no hint of a future, no movement toward exclusivity. You're locked in a holding pattern, circling the same airspace with no permission to land. Why does this happen? Often it's because she's keeping her options open. She's not ready to cut ties with other men because she's still evaluating. You're not the priority. You're part of the rotation. And that lack of commitment shows up as stagnation in your connection. Here's the psychological truth. When a woman sees you as someone she wants long-term, she starts weaving you into her reality. She'll drop hints about the future. She'll introduce you to the people close to her. She'll let you in on parts of her life she doesn't share with just anyone. If none of that is happening after weeks or months, she's not seeing you as her future. She's keeping you as an option. Imagine putting in effort, paying attention, showing consistency, yet months later you realize you're in the exact same place as day one. No forward motion, no deeper bond. That's not bad luck, it's by design. She doesn't want to move forward with you because she's still moving forward with others. The most painful part? A man can waste enormous amounts of energy here, thinking if he just tries harder, if he just proves himself more, things will change. But they don't. Because progress isn't something you can force. It's something she must want with you. Remember this. A woman who sees you in her future will start weaving you into her present. If she's not doing that, then the writing is already on the wall. And when progress stalls, something else always creeps in. Distance. Number 3, she becomes distant. Closeness doesn't just vanish without a reason. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you, her warmth shows in the way she texts, the tone of her voice, the excitement in her eyes when you meet. But when that warmth suddenly cools, when her presence shifts from engaged to detached, it's rarely random. Something else, or someone else, has entered the picture. This is one of the most disorienting signs for men because it often happens without warning. One week, she's laughing at your jokes, sharing stories, making you feel like the connection is growing. The next, her messages shrink to one-word replies. Her availability evaporates, and she seems emotionally checked out. It leaves you questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? But the truth often lies elsewhere. Her attention has been redirected. Modern dating makes this shift even more likely. Dating apps never close. Her phone is a constant stream of notifications and new options. A woman who once lit up when your name appeared on her screen may now be distracted by someone else's message. She may still reply, but her energy tells the real story. Cold, delayed, minimal effort. Imagine sitting across from her at dinner. A week ago, she leaned in, hanging on to every word. Tonight, she's scrolling through her phone, distant, uninterested. You sense it immediately, but you hesitate to accept it because denial is easier than admitting she's already pulled away. Here's the harsh truth. When a woman grows distant without explanation, it's because her emotions are being invested elsewhere. That doesn't always mean she's already with another man, but it does mean she's exploring that possibility and you're slipping down her list of priorities. And this is where men often sabotage themselves. They respond to distance by chasing harder, texting more, trying to win her back. But that only confirms her decision, because genuine attraction doesn't need to be chased. When she's distant, the message is clear. She's no longer as invested in you. A woman's warmth doesn't fade without a reason. If she's pulling away from you, she's leaning towards someone else. And when that happens, you'll notice something even harsher. You're no longer the priority. Number 4, you're just an option. One of the hardest truths for a man to accept is realizing he isn't her priority. He's just part of her backup plan. You can feel it in the dynamic. You're the one reaching out. You're the one suggesting plans. You're the one investing time, energy, and thought into the connection. And in return, minimal effort, delayed responses, half-hearted enthusiasm. This imbalance is not accidental. It's a reflection of where you stand. A woman who's genuinely interested won't leave you carrying the weight of the connection alone. She'll meet you halfway, sometimes even more. But when she treats your effort as optional, it's because she sees you as optional. Think about it. Do you find yourself checking your phone, waiting for her to initiate, only to realize she never does? Do plans only happen when you push for them? Does she vanish for days, then reappear just enough to keep you hooked? These are not signs of genuine interest. These are signs you've been placed on the bench while someone else is playing the main game. Psychologically, many women keep options around for attention, validation, or as emotional safety nets. It doesn't mean she's malicious. It means she hasn't decided to choose you. And until she does, you'll always be competing with invisible rivals you can't see. Here's the painful cost. When you stay in this dynamic, you start draining yourself. You pour energy into someone who gives you crumbs in return. Over time, your confidence erodes. You begin questioning your worth, thinking maybe if you just do more, she'll finally see you. But that day never comes, because you were never positioned as the priority. The truth is simple. If you feel like an option, it's because you are one. And no man who respects himself should tolerate that role. This isn't about arrogance, it's about boundaries. When a woman treats you like a side choice, the strongest move you can make is to pull back. Stop auditioning for a spot in her life. The moment you do, you'll see clearly that her lack of investment wasn't about you. It was about her decision to keep you in reserve. And the cruelest part? When you're stuck as just an option, you'll always feel confused. Number 5. Confusion equals clarity. Here's a reality most men avoid facing. If you constantly feel confused about where you stand with her, then the answer is already clear. You don't stand anywhere that matters. A woman who values you won't leave you guessing. She'll make it obvious through her actions, her consistency, and the way she integrates you into her life. The uncertainty you feel isn't a puzzle to solve. It's the message itself. Think about how different it feels when someone is truly invested. You don't need to overanalyze every text. You don't wonder if she'll cancel last minute. You don't question whether she sees you as important because she shows it. Her attention, her effort, her time, they remove the confusion. The opposite is just as telling. If you're stuck in constant doubt, that's not bad communication. That's her lack of commitment. Picture a man who spends 6 months in a limbo relationship. They talk, they go out occasionally, but he never knows where he stands. He's told, "Not yet," or "I'm not ready," over and over again. Then one day he discovers she's been dating someone else the entire time. The confusion wasn't an accident. It was the cover story for her indecision. And he wasted half a year of his life waiting for clarity that never came. Here's the painful truth. Real interest doesn't create chaos. It creates certainty. If you have to ask, what are we? The answer is already not much. If you lie awake at night, wondering whether she sees a future with you, the answer is probably no. And men pay a heavy price for ignoring this. They lose time, months or even years locked in cycles of mixed signals. They lose confidence, thinking maybe they're not good enough, when the issue is her lack of choice, not their lack of value. And worst of all, they lose opportunities with women who would actually prioritize them, because they're stuck waiting for crumbs of attention from someone who won't. Remember this. Confusion is not a stage in building a healthy relationship. Confusion is the answer. If you're confused, she's not committed. Period. So what should a man do when he sees these signs? That's where the real shift happens. When you strip everything down, it comes to one undeniable reality. Actions always speak louder than words. A woman can tell you she's busy. She can tell you she's interested. She can tell you to be patient. But if her actions don't match her words, that contradiction is the only truth you need. This is where so many men fall into the trap. They cling to what she says, while ignoring what she does. They hold on to promises, excuses, or sweet talk, hoping it means something. But hope is not a strategy. Observing her behavior is. If she doesn't show up, if she doesn't make room for you, if she doesn't invest, then you already have your answer. And that answer demands a response from you. Because the real question isn't, is she seeing someone else? The real question is, why are you tolerating behavior that tells you she's not choosing you? Here's how a man reclaims control. First, stop chasing women who don't prioritize you. The more you pursue someone who treats you like an afterthought, the less respect she has for you. Second, pull back your energy. Invest it where it's valued, not where it's drained. A woman who's serious won't need constant reminders of your worth. She'll recognize it immediately. Third, reclaim your time and self-respect. Every hour wasted on someone who doesn't choose you is an hour stolen from building your confidence, your goals, and your future. The truth is sharp, but freeing. The moment you stop tolerating confusion, you become unstoppable. You stop living in reaction to her mood swings and mixed signals, and you start living from a place of clarity and strength. And that's the shift that changes everything. You're no longer the man begging for attention. You're the man who recognizes his value and refuses to settle for less. And that leads us to the final message. You've now seen the 5 undeniable signs that she's likely seeing other people. She avoids spending time with you. Your connection doesn't progress. Her warmth turns to distance. You're treated like an option instead of a priority. And worst of all, you're left in a fog of confusion. Each of these signs tells the same story. You're not at the center of her focus. And here's the truth that most men don't want to face. When a woman really wants you, you don't have to decode signals. You don't have to second-guess her words or chase for scraps of attention. She makes it known. She invests. She prioritizes. Anything less is not interest. It's distraction. The message is clear. If she leaves you feeling uncertain, then you are not her choice. And if you're not her choice, it's time to make yourself the choice. Stop waiting. Stop negotiating for scraps of time and attention. Start reclaiming your power by walking away from anyone who can't give you the clarity and respect you deserve. The strongest men are not the ones who convince every woman to stay. They're the ones who know when to leave. They don't beg to be chosen. They choose themselves first. And that's exactly what makes them magnetic to the right kind of woman. So if these signs opened your eyes, don't just let this be another video you watch and forget. Act on it. Shift your mindset. Protect your time, your confidence, and your energy. And if you found value here, take the next step. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with a man who needs to hear it. Because knowledge alone isn't power. Applied knowledge is. And the moment you apply it, you stop being the man who waits to be chosen, and you become the man who chooses. You could be lying next to a woman every night and not realize she's already gone. She smiles. She says goodnight. She shares your table. But her mind is elsewhere. The scariest part? She won't tell you directly. She'll drop tiny phrases, soft words that sound harmless, but are really her way of pulling away while keeping you blind. And while you wait, hoping it's just a phase, you're losing respect, losing dignity, and losing your place in her life. I'm about to walk you through the 7 phrases women use when they're already leaving you, without admitting it. Once you know them, you'll stop being blindsided and start seeing the truth for what it is. Before I walk you through these 7 phrases, let's connect for a moment. Subscribe if you haven't yet, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to see just how far this message is reaching, and I'm excited to see our community growing stronger every day. Now let's get back to the story, because what you're about to hear is the first phrase women use when they're already leaving without saying a word. Number 1. I feel disconnected. You hear that line, and your first instinct is to fix it. You start scrolling through memories for what you did wrong, promising yourself you'll talk more, plan a weekend, try harder in bed, be sweeter at dinner. Stop. That sentence is rarely the beginning of a problem. It's the quiet announcement that her attraction has already moved. When a woman still burns for you, connection doesn't need a speech. It shows up as eye contact, playful touch, impatience to be alone with you. Disconnected appears when the closeness has faded and she wants a soft exit ramp. Here's the psychology. People avoid saying, "I don't want you the way I used to." It threatens their self-image and invites accountability. So the mind reaches for a spiritual-sounding wrapper. Disconnection. It feels honest without being specific. Notice the supporting signals. Her replies get polite. Her phone becomes a tiny fortress. She doesn't initiate intimacy. Compliments stop. She's oddly energized for everyone but you. That's not a mystery. That's redirected desire. The impact on you is brutal if you handle it wrong. You interpret disconnected as a call to perform. You over-communicate, over-explain, over-promise. Translation to her nervous system: he's chasing my distance, not leading. Your value drops because you're negotiating for the very thing that used to be given freely. The more you plead, the less she feels. So you respond like a man who reads the room, not like a man who begs for it to change. Your testing move is simple and firm. I hear you. I want us to be clear, not confused. Let's set aside time this weekend for a real conversation about what's changed. I'll schedule it. You're calm, you're kind, and you're in control of the frame. You offer a container where honesty has to show up. No lectures, no guilt, a clear appointment with reality. What happens next tells you everything. If she leans in, keeps the appointment, brings specifics, shows willingness to rebuild, great. Now you can co-create a plan. Transparency with devices, genuine effort toward intimacy, shared routines that relight attraction. But if she dodges, postpones, or returns with vague poetry, I just need to feel more aligned, read the verdict. Avoidance is an answer. Misdirection is an answer. A woman who wants you will risk discomfort to keep you. Your decisive move, then, is dignity, not drama. If we can't have clarity, I won't live in confusion. I'm stepping back. You don't punish, you protect your center. You reduce availability, stop performing for crumbs, and end the open tab on your attention. Because a relationship can survive conflict, it cannot survive indifference disguised as wisdom. You're not here to be managed. You're here to be met. Number 2, I need time for myself. At first, that phrase sounds reasonable. We all need space. We all need moments alone. But in relationships, timing and context change everything. A woman doesn't usually say this when things are stable, connected, and alive. She says it when her attention has already begun to drift, when there's a new spark pulling her thoughts away from you. Time for myself often isn't about meditation retreats or self-discovery. It's about emotional freedom to explore without accountability. Here's the psychology. Human beings hate to admit betrayal outright, so the mind dresses it up. Instead of, I want distance because someone else excites me, she frames it as, I need space to find myself. This softens the guilt and makes her sound noble, even spiritual. Meanwhile, you're left thinking you should be patient, supportive, the understanding partner. But what's really happening is she's asking for freedom with a safety net. She wants to hold on to your loyalty while testing the thrill of disloyalty. The impact on you is dangerous if you misinterpret it. Too many men nod along. Of course, take all the time you need. I'll wait. That isn't love. That's self-abandonment. You become a placeholder, a backup plan, a man in suspension while she auditions a new life. The more you tolerate this fog, the less respect she has for you. Because the truth is simple. Desire doesn't ask for permission. If she wanted you, she wouldn't need time. She would need you. So how do you respond without falling into desperation? You use the testing strategy. Calmly, without sarcasm, you say, I respect your need for space. But I need clarity. Does this time mean we're still moving forward together, or does it mean you've already checked out? Be honest so I know how to act. That statement shows strength. You're not forbidding her, but you're also not blind. You're requiring definition. It's a boundary disguised as a question. Now watch carefully. If she engages honestly, if she defines what she wants and demonstrates effort to keep you close, then maybe there's a path to rebuild. But if she stays vague, I don't know, I just need to think. Recognize that vagueness is the answer. The fog is her cover. A woman invested in you doesn't hide behind smoke. She steps into the fire with you. And if the avoidance continues, here's your decisive move. You don't wait, you don't beg, you don't play the obedient man on standby. You say, if this time means uncertainty, then I choose certainty. I won't stay in limbo. Then step back with composure. That is not cruelty, it's clarity. Because the man who tolerates endless me time slowly loses his own time, his dignity, and eventually his soul. Number 3, not everything has to be physical. On the surface, that line sounds wise. It carries a calm, almost spiritual tone. And of course, intimacy isn't the only measure of love. But here's the catch. When attraction is alive, no one needs to explain it. Desire flows naturally. Touches happen. Closeness feels effortless. Kisses are spontaneous. The moment she starts announcing that not everything has to be physical, it usually means something has already shifted. She's rationalizing the absence of desire. Psychologically, this is a shield. Saying it allows her to reduce the importance of closeness without admitting where her attention is going. It reframes you as the needy one, the shallow one, while she plays the enlightened role. Meanwhile, her body language tells the real story. Short hugs, quick kisses, avoidance of intimacy, excuses about fatigue or stress. Her desire isn't gone. It's just not directed at you anymore. That's the hard truth most men refuse to face. The impact on you can be devastating. You start questioning yourself. Am I being too demanding? Am I insensitive? You stop initiating because you don't want to appear pushy. Slowly, you settle into the role of roommate instead of lover. And once that shift cements, you're not her man anymore. You're her provider, her friend, her safe background noise. all while someone else is awakening the very fire she denies exists. So how do you cut through the fog? You test without aggression. You say, I agree, not everything has to be physical, but intimacy is an essential part of our bond. I want to know, do you still want that closeness with me? Direct, calm, unflinching. You're not begging for validation. You're requesting clarity, and her answer or her silence reveals more than any excuse. If she reassures you and actively participates in reconnecting, if effort shows up in both her words and her body, you've got something to work with. But if she dodges, minimizes, or guilt trips you, you're making too much of this. Take note, that isn't enlightenment. That's avoidance. That's her way of preserving the appearance of partnership while secretly withdrawing from it. Your decisive move, if the truth is clear, is simple. You stop negotiating for intimacy that should be mutual. You refuse to play therapist while another man plays lover. You say, if desire isn't here, I won't pretend it is. And then you act accordingly, by stepping back, reclaiming your self-worth, and refusing to live as a shadow of the man you once were. Because a bond without closeness isn't noble. It's empty. And an empty bond will eat you alive if you keep feeding it with denial. Number 4. You've changed too. This one is sly because it sounds fair. Relationships do involve change. But when she drops this line in the middle of distance and fading desire, it's not about fairness, it's about balance of guilt. She's laying down an alibi. If you ever confront her about pulling away, about talking to someone else, about her coldness, she already has a ready-made defense. Well, you changed first. It shifts the spotlight from her choices to your supposed failures. Here's the psychology at play. When someone feels trapped between who they appear to be and what they secretly want, they invent a narrative that makes them the victim. Blame is the quickest way to justify betrayal. By telling you, you've changed, she creates a script where she is reacting, not acting. It allows her to disconnect with less shame. It also plants a seed in your mind that maybe her distance is your fault. And once you buy into that, she's free to keep detaching without resistance. The impact on you is corrosive. Instead of standing firm, you begin apologizing for things you didn't even do. You replay your routines, your habits, your tone of voice, wondering where you slipped. You bend over backward, trying to prove you're still the man she fell for. But the tragedy is this. The more you try to prove it, the more she feels confirmed that you've indeed lost your edge. You become a defendant in a court, where the verdict was written long before the trial began. So how do you turn this around? You test with strength. Look her in the eye and say, yes, I have changed. Now tell me exactly what you mean. What have you noticed? That response does two things. First, it disarms the vague accusation. Second, it puts the responsibility on her to provide evidence instead of throwing smoke. A partner invested in truth will get specific. She'll bring up habits, patterns, moments that can be discussed. But someone hiding behind manipulation will stay foggy, repeating the same line without substance. Now, if she dodges, I can't explain. It's just a feeling. That's your answer. She doesn't want clarity. She wants cover. And when cover becomes the theme, the relationship isn't about connection anymore. It's about her building an exit ramp while keeping her conscience intact. Your decisive move is to reclaim the frame. Yes, I've changed. I no longer tolerate vague blame. I don't play the guilty man when I've done nothing wrong. That statement flips the script. You're not the defendant. You're the judge of your own dignity. And once you refuse to carry false guilt, you step out of her emotional trap. Because the moment you stop accepting accusations without proof, you stop being her excuse, and you start being your own man again. Number 5. I don't want to talk right now, I'm tired. Every couple has tired nights, but when this phrase becomes a pattern, it's not about exhaustion. It's about escape. She isn't just tired, She's tired of you. That's the hard truth most men try to ignore. When a woman still desires you, she finds energy for conversation, for laughter, even for arguments. She might be exhausted from work, but one text from you can spark life again. When she starts using "I'm tired" as a shield, what she's really saying is, "I don't care enough to deal with you." Here's the psychology. Avoidance is a slow form of exit. Instead of facing discomfort directly, she hides behind fatigue. It's non-confrontational, safe, and socially acceptable. Who can argue against someone being tired? It buys her time, and it slowly conditions you to stop expecting communication. Over weeks, this becomes progressive disengagement, her quiet way of turning the lights off on the relationship without admitting it. The impact on you is subtle but destructive. At first, you excuse it. She had a hard day, let her rest. Then you excuse it again. Before long, every meaningful conversation is postponed. You start to feel invisible. Your concerns shrink because you don't want to be pushy. The relationship slips into silence, and you end up living beside someone who no longer engages with you at all. And here's the kicker. Her energy isn't gone, it's redirected. She has energy to text someone else at midnight, but not to hear you out at 9 p.m. So what's the move? You don't throw a tantrum and you don't roll over either. You test. You say, "All right, rest tonight. But we need to sit down this weekend for a serious talk about the distance between us. I'll set the time." That line communicates two things: empathy and authority. You're not heartless, but you're also not a fool. You create a deadline for honesty, and you claim the role of the one steering the ship. Now, if she agrees and actually shows up for that talk, you'll know whether there's effort left. If she brings specifics, if she opens up, maybe the bond can be salvaged. But if she dodges again, cancels, or keeps pushing the talk into a vague future, the message is crystal clear. She's not interested in rebuilding. She just wants to avoid responsibility while you wither away. Your decisive move then is firm. If the conversations that matter never happen, then this relationship doesn't matter either. You don't have to shout. You don't have to beg. You simply stop investing in a dynamic where silence is the new intimacy. Because a man who keeps tolerating "I'm tired" as a permanent excuse doesn't just lose his partner, he loses himself. And you're not here to live half alive beside someone who already left in spirit. Number 6. I don't know what's going on with you. This one sounds innocent, even playful. She says it with a tilted head, maybe a small laugh, as if she's confused by your presence. But don't be fooled. This phrase is rarely about genuine confusion. It's a maneuver. It flips the script and puts you on the defensive. Suddenly, you're the mystery, the unpredictable one, while she sits in the position of observer. It feels flattering in the moment, but underneath, it's an emotional trap. Psychologically, this is a projection tactic. She knows exactly what's going on. Her desire is fading, her attention is wandering, her energy is moving elsewhere. But admitting that would require honesty and accountability. So instead, she disguises it as curiosity about you. By saying she doesn't understand what's happening with you, she places the responsibility and the tension on your shoulders. Now you feel pressure to explain yourself, to perform clarity, to prove you're not the one making things strange. The impact on you is subtle but powerful. You get hooked by the ambiguity. You wonder if she's seeing something you can't. You start analyzing yourself, trying to adjust to a criticism that was never concrete. And in that loop, you lose your position as the leader of your own life. You stop being the man who decides, and you become the man who reacts. That shift alone can drain your confidence and make you easy to manipulate. So how do you handle it? You test, you don't take the bait. You respond with calm precision. I see things clearly. We're drifting apart. If you think otherwise, then let's sit down and define what's really happening. I don't play in the grey zone. That answer does two things. It asserts your clarity and challenges her to bring something real to the table. You're not confused, and you're not willing to be toyed with. If she meets you in that clarity, if she actually talks, brings details and shows she wants to rebuild, then maybe there's room to fix the bond. But if she keeps circling back to the same vagueness, if she dodges or laughs it off, understand this. She's not looking for truth. She's using haze to keep you on the hook while she feeds her energy elsewhere. Your decisive move is simple. You don't wrestle with fog. You say, if we can't have clarity, then I won't stay in confusion. Then you act on it by stepping back, reclaiming your time, and refusing to be cast as the problem when the problem is her lack of honesty. Because a real man doesn't waste himself decoding games. He demands straight talk, or he walks. Number 7. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Out of all the lines, this one is the most polished. It's been rehearsed, recycled, and passed around in countless breakups. At first, it sounds gentle. She still loves you. She still cares. But look closer. It's an emotional execution wrapped in pretty paper. What she's really saying is, you're safe, you're familiar, but you no longer light me up. It's not affection. It's pity. And pity is not the soil where attraction grows. Here's the psychology. Human beings hate being the villain. This phrase allows her to leave while keeping her image intact. By splitting love into two categories, love as care and in love as passion, she creates a loophole. She can tell herself she's being honest, even compassionate, while still pulling away. The truth is, when desire dies, the words, I love you, become a tranquilizer. They numb the pain long enough for her to step out without looking cold-hearted. The impact on you is devastating if you take it at face value. You hear, I love you, and cling to it like a lifeline. You convince yourself there's still something worth saving. You double your efforts. More gifts, more dinners, more surprises, thinking you can reignite the flame. But the more you try, the more invisible you become. Because she doesn't need more of your effort. She's already given her emotional effort to someone else, even if it's only in her fantasies. So what do? You test. Not with flowers or speeches, but with clarity. You say, if that's how you feel, I need to know. Are you willing to rebuild with me, or are you already gone? That question forces a choice. It removes the comfort of half-truths. A woman who truly wants to work it out will step forward and commit. But if she hesitates, if she mutters, I'm not sure, or I need to find my feelings, recognize what's being said between the lines. She's telling you goodbye without owning the word. And that's where your decisive move comes in. You don't plead. You don't compete with ghosts. You look her in the eye and say, I wasn't born to be loved halfway. Then you step back, not with bitterness, but with dignity. Because staying after that line is self-betrayal. It's choosing the role of furniture in her life while she searches for fire elsewhere. And you, my friend, are not furniture. You're a man. And a man with self-respect never accepts a love that arrives with disclaimers. You've just heard the 7 phrases that every man needs to recognize. None of them are harmless. None of them are accidents. Each one, I feel disconnected. I need time for myself. Not everything has to be physical. You've changed too. I'm tired. I don't know what's going on with you. And I love you, but I'm not in love with you, is a signal. Together they form a pattern, the slow withdrawal of a woman who no longer chooses you, but doesn't want to be the villain in the story. And here's the truth that most men miss. If you ignore these signals, you're not just unlucky, you're complicit. Because once you've seen the signs, staying blind is a choice. Too many men fall into the trap of comforting lies. They wait, They excuse, they overcompensate, they trade their dignity for crumbs of attention. That's not loyalty, that's self-destruction. The smarter move isn't to explode or to beg, it's to test. Every phrase can be answered with clarity. Set the talk, demand specifics, ask the hard question. Not in anger, not in panic, but in calm strength. That's how you find out if there's anything real left, or if she's already gone in spirit. And once the truth shows itself, you act. You don't live in limbo. You don't settle for half a bond. You decide. Because a relationship can survive arguments, routine, even conflict. What it cannot survive is indifference, wrapped in polite excuses. And a man who accepts excuses instead of truth is not a partner. He's a placeholder. You're not here to be a placeholder. You're here to be chosen, fully, by someone who still feels fire for you. So here's your next step. Comment below. I see the signs clearly now. Subscribe to this channel if you want more tools to protect your mind, your dignity, and your future. Share this video with that friend who keeps justifying the unjustifiable. Let him hear what you just heard. Because men who wake up don't chase shadows. They don't beg for clarity. They don't settle for pity disguised as love. They test. They confirm. And when the truth is out, they choose themselves. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. And self-respect is the one thing no one can take from you unless you give it away. Here's the thing about lies. They're rarely perfect. No matter how carefully she chooses her words, her body will always give her away. You've seen it. A sudden swallow, a shaky voice, or restless hands she can't keep still. Those little glitches are not accidents. They're the nervous system spilling secrets the mouth wants to hide. And yet most men look right past it, desperate to believe what they're being told. That desperation comes at a price: time, dignity, and power. But you don't have to pay it. I'm about to show you 10 signs that cut straight through the mask. Watch closely, because the moment you learn these cues, you'll never fall victim to her lies again. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've seen men lose years of their lives ignoring signals that were right in front of them. That's why I'm passionate about teaching you to spot these signs before it's too late. Hit subscribe now, drop a like, and share in the comments if you've ever noticed something subtle that didn't add up. Your story might resonate with another man watching right now. And in just a moment, I'll break down the very first sign, one you've probably overlooked countless times. Number 1. Swallowing. When a person lies, their body often betrays them before their words do. One of the most common giveaways is an unconscious tightening of the throat. Stress activates the body's fight or flight response, and when that happens, muscles around the esophagus constrict. This makes swallowing harder, so you may notice her taking more gulps than usual, even if she doesn't have a glass of water nearby. It's not about thirst. It's about tension she can't hide. Picture this. You ask her about a message you saw pop up on her phone. The room is quiet. Her eyes dart for just a moment. And then, there it is. A dry swallow. Then another. She finally speaks, but the pause has already spoken louder than her words. These little physiological cues are rarely random. They're the body's desperate attempt to manage pressure when the mind is scrambling for a believable answer. Now, does that mean every swallow equals a lie? No. Sometimes people are nervous simply because of the confrontation itself. But here's the difference. If you see this reaction paired with other signs from this list, the chances increase that something is being concealed. Your job as a man isn't to call her out instantly. That's how you lose control of the conversation and hand her the emotional upper ground. Instead, stay silent. Watch. Let the discomfort play out. The more space you give, the more her body will reveal. Power doesn't come from accusing. It comes from observing, remembering, and letting the truth expose itself without you saying a word. Number 2. Licking the lips. When someone is under stress, the body reacts in subtle but telling ways. One of those is reduced saliva production. Her mouth dries out, and instinctively she moistens her lips or even bites them. To an untrained eye, it might look seductive. To a man who understands psychology, it's often the nervous system exposing pressure. Imagine this. You ask her about where she was last night. Instead of answering right away, she runs her tongue across her lips, maybe twice. She tries to continue talking, but her jaw tightens, her lips press together unnaturally. That dryness in her mouth isn't just physical, it's emotional tension manifesting in her body. Now here's the trap most men fall into. They confuse lip-licking with attraction. She might even rely on that confusion. Because if you're distracted by what looks like flirtation, you won't notice the discomfort behind it. That's how lies slip past you, not through what she says, but through what you misinterpret. Does it always mean she's lying? No. Stress, fatigue, even an uncomfortable conversation can cause dry mouth. But when you see this alongside other signs, like a sudden swallow, a shift in tone, or restless hands, don't ignore it. Your move is simple. Don't react. Don't accuse. And definitely don't let your desire cloud your judgment. Pay attention to the pattern. Watch how often it happens and under what kind of questions. That's where the truth is hiding, in the consistency of her unconscious tells. Number 3, answering with questions. When someone doesn't want to face the truth, one of the oldest tricks in the book is deflection. Instead of answering you directly, she throws the ball back in your court with another question. Psychologically, this is a stalling tactic. It gives her precious seconds to craft a believable story while making you feel like you're the one being unreasonable. You've probably heard it before. You ask, "Where were you last night?" And she fires back, "Why don't you trust me?" That's not an answer. That's a shield. The purpose isn't to explain. It's to flip the script, to put you on defense. If you bite, the conversation shifts. Suddenly, you're the one explaining yourself, defending your suspicion, while her lie quietly escapes the spotlight. This is more than a nervous tic. It's emotional manipulation. The goal is to make you doubt your instincts and back off from pressing further. Many men fall for this because they fear being labeled insecure or controlling. But that fear is exactly what allows deception to thrive. Here's your counter move. Hold the frame. Don't follow her question. Don't argue about whether you trust her or not. Instead, calmly repeat your original question. Do it without anger, without raising your voice. Just steady and direct. When you refuse to get sidetracked, she loses the advantage. Remember, truth doesn't need to hide behind another question. Only lies do. And if she consistently dodges with deflection, that's a clear sign she's not giving you the full picture. Number 4, selective memory. Forgetting is human. We all lose track of small details from time to time. But when memory suddenly becomes foggy only around specific questions, that's not ordinary forgetfulness. That's strategy. Psychologists call this avoidance. Instead of telling a direct lie, she creates a gap in her story, a blank space where the truth should be. Imagine this scenario. You ask, "Who were you with after work?" She answers, "I don't really remember." Yet moments later, she recalls what she ate, what music was playing, even what shoes she wore. Conveniently, the only thing she can't remember is the detail that actually matters. That imbalance is the red flag. This tactic works because men often accept "I forgot" as harmless. It sounds less aggressive than a flat denial, and it buys her safety without committing to a lie. But make no mistake, when selective memory appears in the middle of an otherwise clear story, it's rarely accidental. Here's your role. Don't rush to argue, and don't fill in the blanks for her. Just listen. Take note of what she says, and, more importantly, what she avoids saying. Later, bring the same question back in a different way. If her answers don't line up, the cracks will widen on their own. The key is patience. Liars rely on your frustration, hoping you'll drop the subject. Don't. Stay calm, remember the details, and let her contradictions reveal themselves. Real memory doesn't collapse only where the pressure lies. That's where deception lives. Number 5. Skin tone changes. The human body is a terrible liar. When stress hits, it shows itself in places you can't control. One of the most revealing signs is a sudden shift in skin tone. Under pressure, adrenaline floods the bloodstream. Blood vessels either expand or constrict, and the result is visible. A face that goes pale in seconds, or flushes red out of nowhere. Picture this. You're having a normal conversation, casual and light. But the moment you touch a sensitive subject, where she was, who she was with, her complexion betrays her. Maybe her cheeks flare with color, or maybe all the warmth drains out and her face turns ghostly. She keeps talking, trying to act natural, but her body has already broadcasted the message, something isn't right. Most men ignore this. They think, maybe she's just embarrassed. And yes, embarrassment can cause the same reaction. But context matters. If the change happens instantly and only when the tough question lands, it's rarely coincidence. It's the body sounding the alarm. Here's your move. Don't call it out. The moment you point and say, "Why are you blushing?" you give her a chance to cover it up, to laugh it off. Instead, file it away. Let her continue speaking while you observe carefully. Often, that skin reaction is the purest truth you'll get in the entire conversation. The lesson here is simple. Words can be rehearsed, stories can be polished, but the body never rehearses its panic. Pay attention to the sudden change in her face. It's her nervous system confessing what her mouth won't. Number 6. Voice changes. The voice is one of the hardest things to control under pressure. When someone lies, stress interferes with breathing and vocal cords. You'll hear shifts in pitch, sudden cracks, or a pace that feels rushed and uneven. These aren't stylistic choices. They're stress signals. Imagine you ask her a simple but direct question. "Why didn't you answer my call last night?" She begins to reply, but her voice lifts an octave higher than normal, or it trembles just slightly. Maybe she talks faster, as if racing ahead of her own thoughts. Or maybe she stalls, dragging out syllables because her brain is working overtime to invent details. Whatever the form, the change in rhythm is the giveaway. Here's the problem. Many men let emotion drown out perception. They get angry at the words and miss the music underneath. But the voice reveals more than the sentence. A nervous system under stress struggles to maintain its usual tone. Even seasoned liars can't fully mask the sound of tension. Your move is patience. Instead of reacting to the story, pay attention to how it's told. Is her breathing shallow? Does her pace shift mid-sentence? Those subtle cues tell you more than the content. If her voice consistently falters only when certain topics are raised, that's not coincidence, that's exposure. Remember this rule. Words can deceive, but tone always betrays. Listen carefully, not just to what she says, but to how her body forces it out. That's where the truth leaks through. Number 7. Hiding the hands. Hands are more honest than words. When the mind is busy constructing a lie, the body often reveals the tension through the hands. That's why many people, especially under stress, instinctively try to hide them. They shove them into pockets, cross their arms tightly, or keep their palms pressed flat against a surface. It's not comfort, it's concealment. Picture this. You're sitting across the table, asking her about something that doesn't add up. Instead of gesturing naturally like she usually does, her hands vanish beneath the table, or she clasps them tightly together in her lap. She may even tuck them under her arms, as if she's bracing against exposure. These are unconscious moves. She's not planning them. They're her nervous system's attempt to keep from leaking the truth through involuntary gestures. Most men overlook this because they're too focused on her words or her face. But remember, liars fear their hands. Hands fidget, twitch, or reveal emotion without permission. That's why hiding them becomes a defensive reflex. Your move. Observe without reacting. Don't demand she show her hands or call out the behavior. That only makes her double down. Instead, note the shift. If she usually talks with open palms and now suddenly tucks them away, that change is telling. Combine that observation with other cues and the pattern becomes undeniable. The lesson is simple. Eyes may lie, words may mislead, but hands always tell the truth. And when those hands disappear, you should be asking yourself, what exactly is she trying to keep out of sight? Number 8. Pupil dilation. The eyes may be called the window to the soul, but in truth, they're windows to the nervous system. When stress strikes, your body releases adrenaline. That surge affects the pupils, causing them to dilate. Unlike words or gestures, this reaction can't be faked or rehearsed. It happens instantly and unconsciously, exposing what the mind is trying to hide. Picture this moment. You ask her about something she clearly doesn't want to discuss, maybe an unexplained gap in her schedule. As soon as the question lands, her pupils widen. The change is subtle, but if you're paying attention, it's impossible to miss. She may look away quickly or blink faster, trying to conceal the signal, but the dilation already betrayed her. This is where most men fail. They focus on what she says instead of how her body reacts. They hear the excuses, but they miss the eyes screaming with tension. A skilled liar may maintain eye contact, but even then, her pupils tell the story. The nervous system doesn't take orders from her narrative. Your move. Observe quietly. Don't announce what you see, because then she'll adapt. She'll look away more. She'll dim the lights. She'll avoid eye contact altogether. Instead, store that detail. Notice when the dilation occurs, and under what kind of question. Patterns speak louder than isolated moments. The truth here is simple. The pupils can't lie. When they flare wider at the exact moment pressure is applied, you've just witnessed the body expose what the words desperately tried to conceal. Number 9. Eye movement. The eyes carry guilt long before the lips confess it. When a person lies, maintaining steady eye contact becomes a battle. Some dart their gaze from side to side, others blink excessively, or lower their head entirely to avoid the weight of your stare. These movements are not random, they are micro-escapes, desperate attempts to flee the tension without leaving the room. Picture this. You ask her directly, "Were you with him?" For a split second, she locks eyes with you. Then suddenly, her gaze shifts left, right, anywhere but straight ahead. She blinks rapidly, as if the air itself stings her eyes, or she drops her head, forcing you to look at her crown instead of her pupils. She keeps talking, but her silence is in the movement. Most men misinterpret this. They think, maybe she's shy, or she just doesn't like confrontation. But context matters. If she only avoids eye contact during lighthearted talk, that's one thing. If her gaze breaks only when pressure is applied, that's another. Patterns define intent. Your move, don't chase her eyes, don't demand she look at you. That only gives her more power to act. Instead, observe the shift. Compare how she behaves when she's relaxed versus when she's cornered by a tough question. The difference tells you everything. Remember, the truth doesn't flinch, lies do. And when her eyes scatter under your questions, it isn't just nerves, it's the body trying to run from the very answer she refuses to say. Number 10. Nervous fidgeting. Before you get the wrong idea, this isn't about intimacy, it's about nervous energy escaping through restless movements. When someone lies, the stress has to go somewhere, and often it leaks through the hands. She may twist a ring, fiddle with her phone, tug at her sleeves, or run her fingers through her hair over and over. Sometimes she rubs her own arms, almost as if she's comforting herself. These aren't just quirks. They're coping mechanisms. Picture the scene. You ask her about an inconsistency in her story. She insists she's telling the truth, but her hands won't stay still. She spins her bracelet, taps her nails, or keeps brushing her hair behind her ear. The words are confident, but her body is restless. That contradiction is the signal. Most men dismiss these gestures as feminine habits. They assume she's just being playful or distracted. But when the timing lines up, when the fidgeting starts exactly as the tough question lands, you need to pay attention. The body is offloading tension that the voice is pretending doesn't exist. Your move is observation, not accusation. Don't grab her hands or call her out. Just notice. The more she fidgets when pressed, the clearer the picture becomes. Combined with other signs, like shifting voice or darting eyes, this pattern reveals far more than her words ever will. The truth is simple. Calm hands belong to calm minds. Restless hands belong to someone fighting a story they don't fully believe themselves. And when her hands won't stop moving, it's rarely just coincidence. Here's the truth. These 10 signs are not here to turn you into a detective with a magnifying glass. They're here to give you awareness, to hand you back the power that so many men surrender in silence. A single sign on its own doesn't prove deception. People blush, fidget, or forget details for countless reasons. But when patterns appear, when 3, 4, 5 of these signals start lining up, you'd be foolish to ignore them. Remember, deception thrives not because she is clever, but because you are blind. Most men miss what's right in front of them because they're too focused on words or too afraid of confrontation. They want to believe so badly that they let their instincts rot. Don't make that mistake. Awareness doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you prepared. But let me be clear. This isn't about policing her every move. It's about strengthening yours. The real lesson isn't just spotting lies. It's learning how to stay calm when you sense them. A man who explodes in anger hands over his control. A man who observes, remembers, and connects the dots keeps the upper ground. That's the man who cannot be manipulated. So here's my challenge to you. Stop ignoring the red flags. Start trusting what your eyes, ears, and instincts have been telling you all along. Don't wait until the truth destroys you. Step into the role of a man who sees clearly, who stays steady, and who refuses to let his emotions be used against him. If this message opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, share this with a man who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below. Which of these 10 signs have you seen before but overlooked? Because the truth belongs only to those who are willing to face it. And today, you've taken one step closer to being that man. You think the biggest threat to your relationship is some stranger at a bar. It's not. The real danger is sitting in her office right now, laughing with her, sharing stories, maybe even texting her after hours. That's how betrayal begins, not with strangers, but with colleagues who slide past every defense. The cost? Your trust shattered, your confidence destroyed, and your role in her life quietly replaced. But here's the twist. She doesn't even realize how many signs she's leaving behind, and once you know what to look for, you'll never miss them again. In this video, I'll walk you through 6 clear signs she's cheating with a coworker, and at the end, I'll show you what every man must do when those signs appear. Most men imagine betrayal as something that happens far away, with a stranger. The truth is, it often begins much closer, right where she spends most of her day, the workplace. Hours of collaboration, late nights on projects, even quick work trips create an unusual kind of closeness. It doesn't look dangerous on the surface, but under pressure and repetition, bonds grow stronger than you realize. Technology makes it even easier. Messages that start professional slip into personal. A great job today turns into a late-night check-in. With instant access, those small interactions multiply quickly. And here's what you need to know. For many women, attraction isn't just physical, it's emotional. When a colleague validates her ideas, remembers the little details, or shows up during stressful moments, that bond can feel more powerful than anything material. Then comes comparison. The office is a world of status and competence, and an instinct called hypergamy. The pull toward higher value is always at play. If another man looks sharper, leads stronger, or simply seems more attentive, the pull is there. Cheating rarely starts with something obvious. It starts with micro-moments, smiles, inside jokes, attention given where it doesn't belong. That's why you need to recognize the early red flags before they stack into something undeniable. And let's start with the first sign. Number 1, she suddenly changes her appearance. A woman who has gone years dressing in a steady, predictable way does not wake up one morning and decide to reinvent her entire look for no reason. Pay attention when her wardrobe sharpens overnight, when new shoes and accessories start piling up, when she invests in hairstyles that take more effort and carry a fresh message. The most telling clue? She reserves these changes for the office. This is not about vanity. It is about audience. If her extra effort is not aimed at you, then who is it meant to impress? Many times, a single compliment from a colleague can trigger a ripple effect. "You look great in that color," becomes an excuse to buy 3 more outfits in the same shade. A light-hearted remark about her hair turns into regular salon visits. What looks like self-care can, in context, signal directed attraction. Body language ties into this shift. Notice the perfume she wears before leaving for work, the careful makeup applied even on casual Fridays. It is not just about looking put together, it is about signaling availability, about creating an appealing presence for someone specific. You may also notice non-verbal cues when she interacts with that coworker. Leaning in closer, smiling more, eyes lingering longer. These behaviors, paired with a sharp change in looks, paint a clear picture. Do not dismiss this as harmless experimentation. People do not overhaul their style without motivation. A woman who suddenly invests this much energy into her appearance at work is not just dressing for herself. She is dressing for someone else's eyes. And that, my friend, is a red flag you cannot afford to ignore. Number 2, she brings up a specific coworker all the time. When a woman cannot stop weaving a man's name into everyday conversation, it is never random. Pay close attention to who keeps showing up in her stories. She talks about him after meetings, highlights his achievements, and shares little anecdotes that sound innocent but carry an undertone of admiration. The problem is not that she has colleagues, it is that this one colleague has become a permanent guest in your living room, even when he is not there. Listen for the excitement in her voice. Does her tone lift when she says his name? Does she retell his jokes or quote his opinions as if they carry special weight? These are not neutral mentions. They are signals of emotional investment. When she knows about his hobbies, his family, his weekend plans, she has crossed the line from professional acquaintance into personal bond. Another layer of danger appears when she starts comparing you to him. Maybe it is subtle. He's so organized with his projects, but comparison always cuts. It means she is holding you and him on the same scale and often placing him higher. That kind of repeated framing plants seeds of dissatisfaction. Do not get distracted if sometimes she downplays or avoids mentioning him. Overcompensation can take 2 forms: constant praise or sudden silence. Both are signs of a growing attachment she does not want you to notice. Understand this: When her coworker's name becomes a recurring character in your daily conversations, you are not dealing with casual office chatter. You are witnessing the rise of an emotional connection that could evolve into something much deeper. That pattern alone should jolt you awake. Number 3. Her schedule starts to change in ways that don't add up. A stable routine is one of the easiest patterns to track. That is why sudden shifts stand out. When she begins staying late at the office more often, when unexpected meetings appear out of nowhere, or when business trips suddenly increase without clear explanation, you need to question the story you are being fed. Men often rationalize this. They tell themselves, she's just working hard, or her company is demanding. But ask yourself, why now? Why the sudden urgency after years of predictable hours? Why the vague explanations when pressed for details? Ambiguity is not an accident, it is cover. Look at how she frames these changes. Does she throw out generic excuses like a project deadline without naming specifics? Does she dodge when you ask where the event is held, who is involved, or why she wasn't told earlier? These are not slips. They are strategies to keep you at arm's length. Also notice the way technology slips into her schedule. Late-night messages, calls she takes in another room. A phone that used to be left on the table now travels everywhere with her. None of these behaviors exist in isolation, but together they sketch a pattern. Her time is being redirected. And where time goes, attention follows. Do not underestimate the meaning of absence. When her routine no longer belongs to both of you, but becomes a private orbit you cannot access, you're not just dealing with busyness, you are dealing with distance. And distance, in relationships, is the first symptom of betrayal taking root. Number 4. Her secrecy grows stronger than ever before. Transparency in a relationship is simple. When there is nothing to hide, nothing needs to be protected. But when secrecy begins to expand, you are staring at a shift that cannot be ignored. A woman who once left her phone on the couch now guards it like a state secret. She tilts the screen away, installs privacy filters, and suddenly remembers to change passwords that had been untouched for years. Notice how quickly this secrecy escalates. A text alert comes in, and she steps into another room. She answers calls with her back turned, voice lowered. Social media interactions that once stayed public now vanish into deleted threads. The behavior is not about digital hygiene, it is about creating shadows where you cannot look. Defensiveness is another tell. Ask a simple question. Who was that? And the reaction is outsized. Irritation, accusations of jealousy, or a quick attempt to flip the script back on you. When her response is hotter than your inquiry, it is not because you crossed a line. It is because she is protecting something. Understand the psychology here. Secrets require energy to maintain. The more elaborate the secrecy, the higher the investment in keeping it alive. When she spends that much effort shielding parts of her life from you, she is not doing it casually. She is doing it because there is something, or someone, worth protecting. Secrecy is not neutral. It does not appear without cause. When the level of privacy in her daily routine starts to grow beyond reason, you are no longer just a partner in a relationship. You are an outsider looking in. And that shift is one of the clearest warning signs of betrayal unfolding right under your roof. Number 5. You stop getting invited to her work events. Work gatherings used to be open ground. Maybe she once asked you to come along to the holiday party, the happy hour, the team dinner. You were introduced, included, acknowledged as part of her life. But when the invitations dry up, when she suddenly claims it's just colleagues, nothing big, you are witnessing a calculated shift. Why does this matter? Because visibility is accountability. When you are present, other people know who you are and what role you play. When you are absent, there is space to rewrite that role. Excluding you from work, socials removes the witness stand. It gives her freedom to interact with someone else without the weight of your presence. Pay attention to the subtle justifications. It's boring. It's really just for the team. These excuses are meant to normalize your exclusion. But if you were once welcome and now you are not, the change is not casual. It is intentional. She is drawing a line around her work life, and you are outside of it. There is also the emotional layer. Being cut out of that circle doesn't just reduce your access. It signals a deeper problem. She is curating two separate identities. In one, you exist as her partner. In the other, she is free to operate as though unattached. That division is fertile ground for betrayal, because secrecy thrives where connection has been split. Understand this clearly. When your presence at her workplace events becomes inconvenient for her, it is not about saving you from boredom. It is about saving herself from exposure. That choice alone should make you stop and reevaluate what story she is trying to protect and why she doesn't want you there to see it for yourself. Number 6. The physical evidence doesn't lie. At some point, suspicions move from feelings to facts. When objects, receipts, or gifts appear in your life without explanation, you are no longer dealing with imagination. You are dealing with evidence. A dinner receipt from a restaurant you never went to. A hotel charge that makes no sense. Jewelry or perfume that wasn't purchased by you and hasn't been accounted for by her. These are not harmless details. They are fragments of a hidden life. Understand the weight of physical clues. Unlike vague stories or shifting schedules, an item you can hold in your hand cannot be argued away so easily. That is why many women work hard to erase these traces, throwing out receipts, hiding gifts, or disguising them as work perks. When you do find something, it usually means there is more beneath the surface. Notice also the smaller signs. An unfamiliar jacket in her car, an extra phone charger that isn't hers, event tickets to places she never mentioned attending. Each one on its own could have an excuse, but patterns matter. When the pile grows, the story shrinks. And excuses cannot carry the weight of repeated evidence. Do not let her dismiss your awareness with words like, "You're overthinking," or "That's nothing." Physical evidence is never nothing. It is the concrete residue of choices made out of your sight. And when you start seeing those residues, it means a boundary has already been crossed. The painful truth is this: you don't need to catch someone in the act to know betrayal has begun. The trail they leave behind tells its own story. And if you are willing to look at it honestly, that story will tell you more than her words ever will. What to do when the signs are in front of you. By now, you've seen how the patterns build. The changes in her appearance, her conversations, her schedule, her secrecy, her social world, and the physical evidence. Seeing these signs is one thing. Knowing what to do next is what separates men who crumble from men who reclaim control. The first step is to document what you notice. Not to play detective for the thrill, but to ground yourself in facts. Dates, times, receipts, conversations. Emotions can cloud judgment. Records cut through the fog. When you confront, you want clarity, not chaos. Second, you must initiate a calm conversation. This is where most men lose control. They explode, accuse, and give her the upper hand by looking unstable. Don't do that. Sit down, look her in the eye, and use I statements. I found this receipt, and it concerns me. This keeps the focus on the facts, not your rage. Third, ask for clarification. Give her the chance to explain. Not because you are naive, but because fairness forces the truth to the surface. Sometimes there are legitimate reasons. More often, there are not. Either way, you learn more by giving her space to speak than by shouting over her. Fourth, watch her reactions closely. Honest people explain with consistency. Dishonest people scramble, contradict, and lash out. Her reaction will tell you almost as much as her words. Look for defensiveness, evasion, or overcorrection. And be ready for the most common defense of all: gaslighting. Instead of answering your concern, she flips the spotlight back onto you. You're paranoid. You're just insecure. This is why I don't talk to you about work. These phrases are not explanations, they're weapons. The goal is to make you doubt your own judgment so she can escape accountability. Recognize it for what it is. If her response attacks your character instead of addressing the evidence, you're not hearing honesty. You're witnessing manipulation. The worst mistake a man can make is to fall for this tactic and start apologizing for simply asking questions. Don't. Hold steady, stay calm, and keep the focus on the facts in front of you. Finally, set boundaries and expectations. This is where your strength shows. You cannot control her choices, but you can control what you will and will not accept. Make transparency non-negotiable. Make respect mandatory. If she chooses to betray those terms, then she chooses the consequences. Understand this: confronting betrayal is not about salvaging her approval. It is about protecting your dignity. You are not powerless. You are not at her mercy. You hold the right to demand truth, to enforce standards, and to walk away if those standards are broken. The hardest step is not gathering evidence or asking questions. The hardest step is having the courage to see clearly and act decisively. If she is honest, you will know. If she is unfaithful, you will also know. What matters most is that you stand firm in the one place no one can shake: your own boundaries. You've now seen the full picture. The office isn't just a place where projects get done. It can be the silent breeding ground for betrayal. And when you look closely, the signs are there. Her sudden shift in appearance, the way she keeps bringing up a certain coworker, the late nights and vague excuses, the rise in secrecy, the shrinking of your place in her social circle, and finally, the undeniable trail of physical evidence. These are not coincidences. They are patterns, and patterns speak louder than words. If you've connected the dots, you know where this road leads. Pretending not to see it won't protect you. Looking the other way won't buy you peace. Denial is the most expensive mistake a man can make in his relationship, because every day you ignore the truth, you trade away your dignity. But here's the other side of the truth. You are not helpless. You are not a victim unless you decide to be. When you document what you see, when you confront with calm strength, when you give her the chance to explain but refuse to tolerate lies, you take back control. When you set firm boundaries and mean them, you make it clear. You value your time, your respect, and your future too much to let anyone gamble with them. Cheating does not start with dramatic moments. It starts with small cracks. And the man who pays attention to those cracks gains the power to choose his response before it's too late. That's the lesson here. Not fear, but awareness. Not weakness, but strength. If this message hit you hard, it's supposed to, because men wake up when the truth stings. And if you want more truths that will keep you sharp, protect your peace, and help you navigate relationships without losing yourself, subscribe now. Hit that like button. Share this with another man who needs to hear it, and drop a comment. Which sign do you think is the biggest red flag? The difference between betrayal breaking you or building you is simple. Stay blind, and you break. Stay awake, and you build. The choice is yours. Maybe you've been in this moment. You ask a simple question, and suddenly her tone changes, her eyes shift, or she gets defensive out of nowhere. You can feel the distance, but you can't put your finger on why. That's not paranoia. It's your instincts telling you something's off. The danger is when you let those instincts get buried under charm, excuses, and guilt trips. Because women who want to hide the truth are masters at turning the spotlight back on you. But here's the good news. They can't outrun the right questions. In this video, I'll share 7 questions that corner dishonesty, force real reactions, and reveal what's really happening behind the curtain. Once you know these, you'll never be left doubting in silence again. Before I give you the first question, here's your reminder. Dishonesty doesn't scream. It whispers. It hides in the pauses, the defensiveness, the over-explaining. That's why you can't afford to miss what's coming next. So subscribe, like this video, and leave a quick comment if you've ever felt something was wrong but couldn't prove it. Because the very first question I'm about to reveal is the kind that turns whispers into undeniable proof. Number 1, where were you last night? It looks like the simplest question in the world, but simplicity is the trap. A woman who is honest will always have one version of reality. Her details line up because she isn't working to remember a script. She's living the truth. But when someone is hiding something, that same question becomes a razor. The first time you ask, she'll have an answer prepared. The second or third time you ask, at a different moment, in a different mood, the cracks start to show. Lies are heavy, and it takes effort to carry them. Here's how it works. You don't interrogate like a police officer. You drop the question casually, almost like small talk. One night you ask, "Where were you last night?" She says she went to dinner with a female friend and then they watched a movie at her place. Fine. Nothing suspicious. But 2 nights later, you bring it up in another context. "Oh, your friend called earlier. How was dinner with her on Monday?" If the story is true, she'll recall it with ease. The restaurant, the food, the atmosphere. If it's false, the story shifts. Suddenly, dinner becomes just a quick coffee, or she claims she doesn't remember which day it was. Maybe she even snaps back. "Why are you asking again? Don't you trust me?" That defensive reaction isn't protection. It's projection. The mistake most men make is asking once and taking the first answer at face value. But liars rely on your short memory and your need for peace. They hope you won't revisit the story. By repeating the question across time and context, you force consistency. And consistency is where truth lives. Take one case. A woman claimed she went out with a female friend and a co-worker. Later, when her partner casually asked about the co-worker, she struggled to remember what she'd said before. That gap wasn't random. It was the strain of carrying a lie. You don't need anger or confrontation. You need patience. You listen. You collect. You compare. If the story changes, if the details evaporate, the truth is already in front of you. So remember this. It's not about the question. It's about the replay. Ask again, in different ways, at different times. A man who listens twice will see what the first answer tried to hide. Number 2. Why didn't you answer my call? Every man knows the sting of dialing a woman and watching the screen light up with no response. Sometimes it's innocent. She's in a meeting, her phone's in her bag, she didn't hear it. But when the pattern repeats, when it happens at the same times, or when the excuses start to pile up, this simple question becomes a test of loyalty. Here's the psychology. A woman who's telling the truth doesn't need a novel to explain herself. She'll say, "My phone was on silent," or "I was driving." Short, clear, believable. But a woman who's hiding something? Her answers stretch. Suddenly you get a 5-minute story about how she left her phone in the locker at the gym, how the gym was unusually crowded, how she lost track of time, how she was exhausted, and on and on. That flood of unnecessary detail is not clarity. It's cover. Another red flag is defensiveness. Instead of answering your question, she throws it back at you. "Why are you always calling when I'm busy?" Or, "Can't I have one evening to myself?" Notice what happened. You asked a question about her behavior, and somehow you're now on trial. That's manipulation. A woman with nothing to hide doesn't need to make you feel guilty just for asking. And here's the killer. Contradictions with social media. She claims she was too busy to answer, yet during that exact hour, her Instagram story shows her posting selfies or commenting on someone else's post. If she had the time to scroll, she had the time to send a 2-second text saying, "I'll call you later." Silence in your direction, but activity online? That's not distraction. That's choice. Consider this example. A woman claimed she missed her boyfriend's calls every Thursday evening because she was at her book club, with phones on silent. Reasonable, until her social media activity told a different story. During the very hours she claimed she was unreachable, she was liking posts and viewing stories. The book club existed, yes, but she wasn't there the entire evening. She was slipping out early to meet someone else, keeping her phone in her hand for social media, but ignoring his calls. Understand this. Missing one call is nothing. Life happens. But consistent unavailability, paired with shaky explanations, is a signal. You're not asking this question to be controlling. You're asking because consistency is the currency of trust. So the next time you hear, "I couldn't answer, I was too busy," don't focus only on the words. Look at the length of the explanation, the tone of the defense, and whether her digital life tells a different story. Truth is brief. Lies take time. Number 3. Who are you with? This question slices through the fog of vague explanations. Most people, when asked who they were with, naturally share names, faces, little details. "I grabbed a drink with a college friend. You met him at my birthday last year." That's normal. It's human. But when a woman is hiding something, the details suddenly vanish. All you get is "just some friends" or "a few people from work." Here's the psychology. Lies thrive in vagueness. Specifics can be checked, verified, or challenged. A liar avoids that risk by keeping things blurry. But truth likes to be remembered. When a person is honest, they often provide more than you even asked for, because they aren't afraid of follow-up questions. Watch the body language when you ask. A woman with nothing to hide will look you in the eye, answer comfortably, maybe even smile. A woman covering something up often avoids eye contact, shifts in her seat, or suddenly acts irritated that you asked. The body doesn't lie as easily as the mouth. Here's a strategy. Circle back later. If she says, "I was out with a female friend and a coworker," then 2 days later you casually drop, "How's that coworker doing? You mentioned them the other night." If the coworker was real, her answer will come effortlessly. If the coworker was fiction, she'll scramble, stall, or even forget she mentioned them. That's the beauty of this question. You don't need to catch her in the moment. Time does the work for you. Another layer of protection. Mutual friends. If she claims she was with someone you both know, you can verify without raising alarms. For example, you mention casually to that mutual friend, "Heard you two had fun last week." If they look puzzled or deny it, the story unravels instantly. One case stands out. A woman always claimed she went out with her co-workers every Friday night. But when her partner met those co-workers at a company event, none of them ever mentioned such outings. Her vague, "just co-workers" excuse was nothing but cover for another life she was hiding. Understand this. The question isn't about controlling her social circle. It's about clarity. If she resists giving you names, gets defensive when you press gently, or offers only fog instead of faces, she's signaling something. Relationships are built on accountability. If she can't even name who she spent her time with, what else is she hiding? So never underestimate this question. "Who are you with?" is not just small talk. It's a mirror. Honest company is easy to name. Lies, however, can't handle the light of specifics. Number 4. Why do you seem distant lately? This is not a question about schedules. It's about the heartbeat of the relationship. When a woman begins to pull away, less conversation, less affection, less energy, you feel it before you can explain it. And here's the truth. Emotional distance rarely shows up without a cause. If she's being honest, She'll usually have a specific explanation. Stress at work, a family issue, health concerns, real-life problems that drain her energy. These answers come with context, details, and often an apology. I know I've been distracted. My mom's in the hospital, and it's weighing on me. The honesty is tangible. She connects the dots for you, and she's open to your support. But when the distance comes from somewhere else, another man, a hidden investment of attention, the response shifts. Instead of context, you get deflection. She'll deny the distance. I'm not different. You're just being clingy. Or she'll turn the spotlight on you. Why do you analyze everything I do? That's not an answer. That's an attack. It's a way of shutting down your intuition and making you question yourself. Another sign, overcompensation. The moment you ask, she suddenly floods you with affection, texts, or smiles. But it doesn't last. A few days later, the coldness returns. That roller coaster isn't real intimacy. It's a performance designed to cover tracks. Here's where you must be sharp. Don't settle for vague phrases like, "I've just had a lot on my mind." Press gently. What exactly has been bothering you? If the story has no timeline, no concrete weight, then it's likely not the real reason. Genuine stress has fingerprints, deadlines, names, events. A cover story does not. In one case, a man noticed his wife growing colder by the week. Conversations shrank, physical affection dwindled, and shared activities no longer sparked joy. When he asked why, she said, "Work stress." But when he offered to help, take over chores, plan a weekend getaway, she declined every solution. That's when it clicked. It wasn't stress stealing her energy. It was her attention invested elsewhere. Men often ignore emotional distance, hoping it will fade. That's a mistake. Distance is not neutral. It's directional. If she's not bringing her energy to you, it's going somewhere else. So pay attention. Ask the question, and don't be fooled by deflection or temporary sweetness. Emotional withdrawal is one of the earliest signs of betrayal. And if you feel it, don't gaslight yourself. Your intuition is usually right. Number 5, can I see your phone for a minute? In today's world, a phone is more than a device. It's a diary, a social circle, and a record of habits. That's why this question is so revealing. It's not about what you might find on the screen. It's about her reaction in the moment you ask. A woman with nothing to hide treats the request casually. She might hand it over without hesitation or explain quickly if she's in the middle of something. Sure, let me finish this text first. Her response is calm, proportional, and free of drama. She doesn't act like you just accused her of a crime. But when secrets are buried in that device, the body speaks before the mouth does. Watch closely. Does she instinctively pull the phone closer to her, like a shield? Does her posture stiffen, her face tighten, her voice rise? These unconscious reactions happen before she has time to control them. A guilty phone owner doesn't relax. She panics. Common verbal red flags include, "Why do you want to see my phone?" or "Don't you trust me?" Notice how these aren't answers. They're counterattacks. The goal is to make you feel ashamed for asking instead of focusing on why she's so unwilling. Another variation is conditional compliance. "You can look later," or "after I clean some things up." Translation? She needs time to erase the evidence. The most extreme response is outright outrage. "Absolutely not. I can't believe you'd even ask." That level of fire over such a simple request tells you the truth. She's hiding something she cannot risk you seeing. Someone with normal privacy concerns will set boundaries calmly, without theatrics. But when fury explodes, it's because the phone is loaded with secrets. Here's a smart tactic. Don't frame the request as a search. Instead, make it practical. "Can I use your phone to call my brother? My battery's dead." Or, Can I check the weather real quick? If she hands it over easily, that's transparency. If she creates obstacles, why not wait till later? Or just charge your phone instead. Those excuses are the real signal. Consider one example. A man used this exact method. He asked to borrow his girlfriend's phone to check an address. Her entire body tensed. She clutched the phone like it was gold and snapped, "Use your own." That reaction told him more than any text message ever could. Remember this: you're not hunting through her apps like a detective. You're observing her comfort level with access. Trust doesn't panic, secrets do. Number 6. Why are you dressing up more than usual? Clothing tells a story long before words do. When a woman suddenly changes the way she presents herself, new outfits, more makeup, extra time in front of the mirror, it raises an important question. Who is she trying to impress? A woman with honest intentions will usually explain these changes with clarity. Maybe she got a promotion and wants to look more professional. Maybe she lost weight and is feeling proud of her progress. Maybe she simply wants to reinvent her style for her own confidence. These reasons make sense, and they come with enthusiasm. She'll tell you about the new blouse she bought for work, or the haircut she's been wanting for months. Real motivation carries details. But when the explanation is vague, "I just felt like it," or when the response turns defensive, "Why can't I care about how I look?" That's a different story. Defensiveness is often the shield for a hidden agenda. And the real red flag isn't just the change in appearance, it's the timing. If she invests more effort in how she looks for outings without you, yet makes minimal effort when she's with you, that's not self-improvement. That's redirected energy. Here's what to watch for: the mismatch between occasion and effort. Suddenly spending an hour getting ready to run errands but throwing on sweats for dinner with you. Putting on perfume to visit family but showing up barefaced when you go on a date together. The pattern isn't about the clothes, it's about where her attention is flowing. In one instance, a man noticed this shift with his girlfriend. For months she was casual when they went out together. But before grocery runs, she began dressing sharply, doing her hair, even applying lipstick. When he asked why, she brushed it off. But the truth surfaced later. Those errands included detours to meet someone else. The effort wasn't for him. It was for the new audience in her life. You don't need to confront with accusations. You simply need to observe. Honest changes in appearance are transparent, shared openly, even celebrated. Secretive changes are defensive, mismatched, and selective. So when you notice the shift, ask the question. Listen not just to the words, but to the tone. Genuine motivation shines through with clarity. Hidden attraction hides behind irritation. Never forget, appearance is currency. When she spends more of it outside your relationship than within it, she's showing you exactly where her priorities now lie. Number 7. Why do you keep saying, "I don't trust you"? This question flips the script. When a woman feels cornered, she often reaches for one of the oldest tricks in the book: projection. Instead of answering your concerns, she accuses you of being the problem. "You don't trust me. You're controlling. You're always suspicious." Suddenly the spotlight is off her behavior and shining on your supposed flaws. Here's the psychology. People who are guilty often use deflection because it buys them time. If you're busy defending your trustworthiness as a partner, you're not pressing them on the real issue. It's a smokescreen. But when you throw the question back, "Why do you keep saying I don't trust you?" you force her to explain the accusation, and that's where the truth slips. An honest woman might pause, reflect, and say, "You're right. I've been defensive lately. I need to think about why." That's transparency. She's willing to examine herself and meet you halfway. But a woman hiding something? She doubles down. "Because you're always on my case. Because you make me feel like a criminal." Notice the vagueness. No specific examples, no concrete behavior from you, just broad claims designed to make you feel guilty. If she can't pinpoint when or how you supposedly distrusted her, it's because the issue isn't you. It's her conscience. Here's a tactic. Calmly ask, "What exactly have I done that makes you think I don't trust you?" If she struggles to answer, if she dodges, if she spirals into more accusations, you've exposed the projection. Real grievances come with dates, situations, memories. Manufactured ones fall apart under scrutiny. In one case, a man's girlfriend constantly accused him of being suspicious, even though he rarely questioned her. When he finally asked why she kept bringing it up, she couldn't provide a single example. It turned out she was projecting her own guilt. She was unfaithful, and her constant "you don't trust me" was her way of masking that reality. Understand this. A woman who brings up trust more than you do is usually fighting her own battle with it. She's not reacting to your lack of faith. She's revealing her own lack of honesty. So when you hear that phrase again and again, don't get defensive. Don't fall for the guilt trip. Ask the question. Watch her reaction. If she can't explain it clearly, the issue isn't your trust. It's her truth. Now you've seen it. 7 questions that act like scalpels, cutting through excuses, vagueness, and emotional games. These aren't tricks to play detective in your relationship. They are mirrors. Each one forces a moment of truth, not through confrontation, but through consistency, observation, and calm strength. Understand this. You're not asking to police her. You're asking to protect yourself. A man who ignores patterns, who dismisses his gut, who silences his own instincts, becomes easy prey for manipulation. But a man who listens carefully, asks clearly, and observes patiently, he can't be deceived for long. Think back through these 7 questions. They aren't about proving her guilty. They're about giving her the chance to show where she really stands. Honest women will meet you with clarity, detail, and openness. Dishonest women will meet you with fog, defensiveness, and guilt trips. The contrast is so sharp it's impossible to miss once you know what to look for. And here's the real lesson. The answers matter less than the reactions. Watch how she responds. Does she relax or does she panic? Does she give details or does she attack? Does she welcome clarity or run from it? That difference tells you everything. Don't let your emotions blind you. Don't let affection rewrite reality. And don't wait until betrayal shatters you to start protecting your heart. You can't control another person's loyalty, but you can control your awareness, your boundaries, and your decision to stay true to yourself. If you've been watching this and thinking, "This is exactly what I needed," then it's time to take the next step. Hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with another man who might be walking blind into the same storm. Drop a comment below about which question hit you the hardest. Your story could wake someone else up. And don't forget to like this video so more men can see it before it's too late. Because here's the truth. Trust isn't about closing your eyes and hoping for the best. Trust is about seeing clearly, asking the right questions, and refusing to be played. Don't wait until you're broken to learn how to defend yourself. Protect your heart today, because if you don't, no one else will. She's with another man, and you know it. The betrayal feels like fire in your chest, and yet you still love her. That love is what makes you dangerous to yourself. Because love after betrayal turns men into beggars, and beggars lose everything. But here's the truth. You don't have to be destroyed. There are 9 steps that can pull you out of this trap. 9 things you must do before you make a single decision. Skip them, and you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share might just save you from yourself. You're not the only one going through this. Men from every walk of life have faced this same pain, and the choices they made shaped their entire future. Subscribe right now if you want to make sure your choices lead to strength, not regret. And comment below. Are you watching this because you've lived it or because you fear one day you might? Either way, stay with me, because the next truth may sting, but it's the one you need most. Number 1, you must face the cold reality. When a woman cheats, it rarely comes out of nowhere. Most men convince themselves it was a sudden slip, a careless mistake, something that can be brushed off if they just forgive quickly enough. But that's a dangerous illusion. By the time she crosses that line, her heart has usually been gone for a long time. The cheating is not the beginning of the end. It's the confirmation that the bond was already broken. This is where many men fail. They cling to the fantasy of who she used to be instead of confronting who she has already become. They replay memories of when she was loyal, when she smiled only at them, when intimacy felt secure. But memory won't save you. The woman standing in front of you today is not the same one you once trusted, and pretending otherwise is self-deception that will cost you even more. You need to remove the blindfold. Stop asking, "How could she do this to me?" and start asking, "Why didn't I see it coming?" The signs were there, the distance, the excuses, the shift in her energy. You just didn't want to face them. Now the truth is undeniable, and the longer you delay accepting it, the deeper the wound will cut. Here is the hardest part. She betrayed you, not at the moment she slept with someone else, but at the moment her heart left the relationship while you were still holding on. That's when you truly lost her. If you can't accept this cold reality, every step that follows will collapse. This is the foundation. Without it, you'll keep negotiating with illusions instead of dealing with truth. Number 2, you must turn the spotlight on yourself with ruthless honesty. After betrayal, most men obsess about her actions, where she went, who she was with, what she said. But the brutal truth is, the most important questions are the ones you must ask yourself. Because before you decide whether to hold on or to let go, you need to know exactly what you're holding on to. Start by stripping away every excuse. Has she done this before? If she has a history of being unfaithful, then you're not dealing with a one-time event. You're staring at a pattern. And patterns don't vanish because of apologies. Next, ask, why did she cheat? Some men want to believe cheating is just cheating. But context matters. Was it a careless night fueled by alcohol and poor judgment? Or was it an affair that stretched for months, maybe years, where emotions were invested, secrets were built, and intimacy was redirected away from you? One is reckless, the other is a full replacement. They are not the same. Then confront the state of the relationship before it happened. Were you drifting apart? Was she voicing dissatisfaction that you ignored? Or did she blindside you when you thought things were perfectly fine? The answers here are not about justifying her actions. They are about exposing the truth of what your relationship really was. This process will hurt. It will tear down the image you've built of your relationship, the version you wanted to believe in. But unless you face these questions with ruthless honesty, you will make decisions based on emotion, not reality. And decisions made in desperation almost always chain men to the very pain they're trying to escape. Number 3. You need to determine whether her betrayal was driven by compulsion or by conscious choice. This distinction matters more than most men realize. Treating them as the same thing will trap you in confusion and waste precious time. Compulsion looks like this. She repeatedly seeks attention or intimacy outside the relationship, often without clear reasoning, almost as if she cannot control the urge. It may be linked to deeper psychological issues, patterns of self-sabotage, an inability to commit, or even a craving for validation that no single partner can satisfy. In these cases, she might not even take real pleasure in what she's doing. It's simply an addictive loop she struggles to break. That doesn't make it any less painful, but it means you're dealing with something rooted in her inner wiring. not necessarily in your shortcomings. Choice, however, is very different. When she plans it, hides it, and maintains it, that's not compulsion, it's intent. It's when she evaluates her options, knows the risks, and still decides to betray. That is a declaration of her values. And once you see it for what it is, you can no longer fool yourself into believing she just slipped. Ask her directly. Does she feel in control of her urges, or was this something she calculated? Does she even acknowledge the difference? Her response will tell you more than you think. But don't confuse her excuses for answers. Many women will claim, "I don't know why, it just happened," when in reality, it was carefully orchestrated. If it's compulsion, she needs professional help, not just promises. If it's choice, then you must face the fact that she betrayed because she wanted to. One can possibly be managed, the other is a permanent red flag. Don't blur the line. Your future depends on seeing it clearly. Number 4, you need the right support system. Betrayal is heavy. Trying to carry it alone will crush you. But here's the danger. Most men, in their pain, run straight to the wrong people. They rant to colleagues, vent to her friends, or even worse, confide in her family. That's not strength. It's self-destruction. Every word you spread becomes fuel for gossip, judgment, and manipulation. When you've been cheated on, your reputation is already fragile. If you open your wounds in front of the wrong audience, you hand them power over your story. You become the man who couldn't keep his woman, and those words will echo long after the pain fades. You cannot afford that. What you need is selective, disciplined support. Reach out only to the people who knew you before her, the ones whose loyalty is to you, not to her, not to your relationship, but to your well-being. It could be a longtime friend, a brother, or a mentor you trust. Tell them what happened, not to get instructions, but to have a safe place to process the chaos in your mind. Make it clear, you're not asking them to make decisions for you. You're asking for perspective, maybe just a listening ear. Sometimes saying the words out loud to someone you trust helps you hear your own truth more clearly. But always draw the line. Don't bleed your pain into every corner of your life. Don't tell her best friend, her co-workers, or mutual acquaintances. That's not release. That's exposure. Your support system is your shield, not your stage. Build it wisely, and it will steady you while you prepare for the decisions ahead. Build it carelessly, and it will become another battlefield where you lose control. Number 5. You must confront the question of compatibility. Not every betrayal comes from boredom or anger. Sometimes it comes from a deeper truth. She doesn't believe in monogamy. There are women who can't or won't stay with one partner. They crave variety, freedom, or the thrill of new connections. And if that's who she is at her core, no amount of pleading or promises will reshape her. This is where men destroy themselves. They convince themselves that love is enough to bridge the gap. They think if they love harder, forgive faster, or perform better, she'll suddenly embrace loyalty. That's a fantasy. Values don't bend under pressure. They either align or they don't. If she rejects exclusivity and you believe in it fully, you are not partners. You are opponents fighting under the same roof. Ask yourself, could you ever accept an open relationship? Could you live with the idea of her seeking intimacy with others while still calling you her partner? If the thought alone makes your stomach turn, then you already have your answer. Trying to force yourself into that arrangement will break you piece by piece. On the other hand, if you truly believe you can handle openness, you need to define the rules with absolute clarity. But let's be honest. Most men who say they're okay with it are just terrified of losing her completely. They compromise out of fear, not conviction. And compromise built on fear is the quickest road to self-destruction. Compatibility is not about how much you want her back. It's about whether your core values match. If they don't, then clinging to her is not love. It's self-betrayal. And that betrayal is far more devastating than anything she's done to you. Number 6. You must take a tactical pause. When you first discover betrayal, your emotions will scream for action. You'll want to explode in rage, demand explanations, or worse, beg her to stay. That is exactly what you must not do, because the moment you lose control, you hand her all the power. Silence and distance are not weakness, they are strategy. After the shock, step back. Create space between you and her. Give yourself the time to breathe, to clear your mind, and to regain your composure. If you rush in with anger or desperation, you set the tone for the entire aftermath, and it will be one of chaos. During this pause, focus inward. What are your boundaries? What are you absolutely unwilling to tolerate? What would need to change for you even to consider rebuilding? Write it down if you have to. This is not about her yet. It's about you stabilizing yourself before re-engaging. Then when you are ready, initiate a conversation. Speak calmly, but firmly. Ask the questions that matter. What led to this? Was it about unfulfilled needs, or was it about choices she made, knowing full well the consequences? Listen, but do not surrender your position. This is not a negotiation to win her back. It's a fact-finding mission to decide whether she even deserves a place in your life. And remember this: a pause carries more strength than begging ever will. Space communicates that you are not dependent on her validation. It tells her, without words, that you are a man who can stand on his own. In betrayal, that posture is your shield. Number 7. You must reach the decision point. Every man who has been cheated on eventually faces this crossroad. Do you stay and attempt to rebuild, or do you walk away and reclaim your life? Most men delay this choice, clinging to uncertainty because it feels safer than the pain of a final answer. But indecision is its own form of destruction. So here is the truth. Staying is only an option if both of you are fully committed to change. That means she takes accountability without excuses, and you are willing to face uncomfortable truths about the relationship. It means setting new standards, defining new boundaries, and both of you working toward them without half measures. If either of you is unwilling, then the relationship is already finished. You're just delaying the burial. On the other hand, you must recognize when walking away is the only sane choice. If your core values clash, if you demand loyalty while she demands freedom, there is no compromise that won't poison you. If she minimizes her betrayal, blames you, or refuses transparency, then staying is not rebuilding, it's self-erasure. This is where many men fail. They let fear of being alone trap them in situations that slowly dismantle their dignity. They convince themselves that suffering together is better than starting over. But there is no honor in living with someone who disrespects your most fundamental boundaries. So decide, with clarity and courage. Staying requires both of you to rise. Leaving requires only you. Either way, the worst choice is no choice at all. Indecision keeps you chained to the pain. A man who knows his values and acts on them is free, no matter the outcome. Number 8. If you choose to stay, understand this: what you had before is gone. The relationship that existed before betrayal is dead. Trying to get back to how it was is impossible, and chasing that illusion will only drag you deeper into frustration. If you stay, you are not repairing the old relationship. You are building a new one from scratch. That means new rules, new expectations, a new foundation built on absolute clarity. What are your non-negotiables? What boundaries must never be crossed again? What will trust look like now, and how will it be measured? These questions must be answered, not in vague promises, but in specific agreements. Without that, Forgiveness is nothing more than a bandage over a wound that will reopen. It also means mutual commitment. You cannot rebuild alone. If you are the only one making sacrifices, the structure will collapse. She must demonstrate real accountability, consistent transparency, and visible effort. If she shrugs it off, saying, "Let's just move forward," understand that what she really means is, "Let's forget I ever betrayed you." And that attitude will rot the foundation before you lay the first brick. Practical steps matter. Consider professional counseling to help create a safe space for dialogue. Get medical checkups to eliminate risks left behind by betrayal. Introduce routines that re-establish intimacy and connection. But remember, progress will be slow and setbacks will come. Above all, remind yourself every day, this is not the same relationship, and it never will be. You are either both building something new or you are wasting energy on something already buried. Staying can work, but only if it feels like growth. If it feels like slow decay, you are not rebuilding. You are sentencing yourself to live in ruins. Number 9. You must prepare for the psychological aftermath. Cheating doesn't just break trust. It leaves scars that alter the way you see relationships, women, and even yourself. If you ignore these scars, they will quietly control your decisions, shaping your future through fear and bitterness. But if you confront them, they can become armor. Understand this. Trust will not snap back into place. Every disagreement, every late text, every unexplained absence will trigger doubt. That's not paranoia. It's the residue of betrayal. You need to accept that healing takes time, and during that time, you must guard your emotions. Guarding doesn't mean closing your heart forever. It means refusing to hand over blind faith to anyone who hasn't earned it. Do not let this experience turn you into a cynical shell who sees every woman as guilty before proven innocent. That is weakness disguised as toughness. Real strength is the ability to recognize risk while still living with clarity and purpose. Learn to observe patterns, not excuses. Learn to walk away at the first sign of disrespect, not after years of erosion. Most importantly, upgrade yourself. Use the pain as fuel. Build your body, sharpen your mind, grow your finances, strengthen your network. Betrayal can either shrink you or expand you, and that choice is yours. Never forget, she may have shattered your trust, but the greater danger is if you allow her to shatter your identity. Betrayal forces a man to either resurrect himself stronger or bury himself weaker. Which outcome you choose will echo through every relationship you ever have again. You've just walked through 9 strategic steps, from facing the cold reality, to questioning yourself with ruthless honesty, to distinguishing compulsion from choice, from building the right support system, to confronting compatibility, to pausing strategically before you talk, from making the hard decision, to building a new relationship if you stay, to arming your mind for the aftermath. These steps aren't theory. They are survival. Not every man will have the strength to follow them. Some will collapse in denial, hoping the problem disappears. Others will drown in emotion, making desperate choices that bind them to more pain. But a few will rise. They will see betrayal for what it is, not just a wound, but a test. And how you respond to that test will define the man you become. Understand this, surviving infidelity is not about her. It's about you. It's about whether you allow one act of betrayal to destroy your dignity or whether you use it as the fire that forges you into someone stronger. It's about refusing to let her actions dictate your future. It's about reclaiming control, not only over the relationship, but over your life. If this message hits you where it hurts, leave a comment below. Share what step you're struggling with or what truth finally snapped you awake. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another breakdown of the hidden games in relationships. And if you know a man who's stuck in this nightmare, share this video with him. Sometimes the harshest truth is the only lifeline that saves a man. She may have cheated. That's her betrayal. But the greater danger is if you betray yourself by ignoring reality, by clinging to illusions, by selling out your values just to keep someone who already left you. Remember this. She can betray you once,